April 18th, 1945. A gray dawn settles over the foothills outside Gardelegen, its pale light creeping across the churned mud and broken fences of what used to be a German supply farm. Frost hangs low, clinging to the barbed wire like tiny shards of glass. And in the center of a clearing, silent, unmoving, stands a line of women who look more like ghosts than prisoners. An American MP shouts an order. The women don't react at first. They barely can. Their wool coats are threadbare, sleeves ripped, hemmed stiff with mud and dry blood. You can almost feel the cold biting into their fingers curled tight against their bodies, trembling, raw. Most of them haven't eaten in days. Their cheeks are hollow, their lips split. One woman sways slightly, catches herself, and forces her hands behind her head again. They've been told to stand still. They believe this is the prelude to punishment, or worse. The U.S. 102nd Infantry Division had swept through the area only hours earlier, moving fast, clearing pockets of resistance as the war staggered toward its final weeks. In their wake, they found these women, German auxiliaries, clerks, civilian workers, rounded up after refusing to flee with retreating Wehrmacht units. Rumor travels faster than tanks in a collapsing front. The women had heard everything. Americans shoot prisoners. They take revenge on Germans. They don't spare women. None of it true, but fear doesn't check its sources. So they stand rigid beneath the rising sun, breath fogging in thin, quivering clouds, waiting for whatever the Americans will do to them. Waiting for the inevitable. Two MPs patrol in front of them, boots crunching in frost. Their faces are stern, not cruel, not unkind, just focused. One carries a clipboard. The other keeps his hand near his holster, not because he fears the women, but because war has trained him never to assume safety. Behind them, an American truck growls to a stop. The engine coughs once, then dies. The women flinch. A corporal hops down first, scanning the area, calling out to the MPs. The back doors open, and several figures jump off the tailgate, their helmets marked with a single red cross. For a moment, the women don't understand what they're seeing. Then, one of the men steps forward. He's lean, tall, with a face drawn from too little sleep and too much responsibility. His medical bag swings at his side as he adjusts his spectacles with two gloved fingers. First Lieutenant William Carter, 116th Evacuation Hospital, U.S. Army Medical Corps. He looks at the line of women, really looks at them, and his jaw tightens. Jesus, one of the medics mutters under his breath, not intending to be heard. But the women hear, and their fear spikes. Lieutenant Carter doesn't waste time. He gives a single, calm order. Blankets. Get the blankets. The women stiffen. Blankets? For what? For covering bodies? For carrying the wounded away? One woman closes her eyes. Another clenches her jaw until her teeth crack. And then something unexpected happens. The medics approach slowly, carefully, like men approaching startled animals. Their boots leave deep impressions in the soft earth as they draw closer with armfuls of folded olive drab wool. Carter stops a few feet away from the first woman in line. She's trembling so badly her shoulders shake. He raises his hands, not to strike, not to command, but to show he's unarmed. "You're cold," he says softly. "Let us help." The woman doesn't process the words. She's braced for the moment the deception ends. But then a blanket slips gently around her shoulders, the warmth startling against her skin. She gasps, not in pain, in disbelief. A medic kneels before the second woman, gently lifting her foot. Her boot sole is cracked open, exposing skin that is purpled and swollen. Frostbite, possibly trench foot. The medic whistles sharply and signals for Carter. Carter crouches down, brushing ice away from the wound. "The hell did they make you march through?" he says quietly. The woman blinks down at him, confused. He's touching her like she matters, like she isn't the enemy. Another medic pulls out a small vial. Morphine. The women tense in alarm. Carter sees it immediately. He raises one hand. It's medicine. For the pain. That's all. The women exchange glances. Medicine? Pain relief? From the Americans? A man who speaks German steps forward. PFC Joseph Klein, a former schoolteacher from Milwaukee, drafted 2 years earlier. He explains, slowly, gently, that the medics are here to treat them, not harm them. That they are safe. One woman, the youngest in the line, barely 20, begins to cry. Not a dramatic sob, just a single tear tracing a line down a dirt-stained cheek. Another follows, then another. Within moments, several women are openly weeping, not from fear, but from the sheer emotional whiplash of being treated with humanity when they were certain they had forfeited their right to it. And that's when Carter gives the order that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. Food. Bring the rations. A medic returns carrying a crate of K-rations, biscuits, powdered soup, chocolate bars. He kneels and opens it, offering the first bar of chocolate like a peace treaty. The women freeze. Chocolate? For them? The emotional tension is a living thing now, thick enough to feel. One woman's hands hover in place, unsure if she's allowed to accept it. Go on, Carter says. Take it. She reaches out, hesitates, then grasps the chocolate with both hands as though afraid it will vanish. For a second, everything stops. The wind, the world, the war. And then she bursts into tears, so suddenly her knees buckle. Carter catches her before she hits the ground. As he lifts her up, supporting her weight, one unthinkable realization spreads through the entire line of prisoners. Quiet, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. These men aren't here to punish them. They're here to save them. The women stand in stunned silence as the medics move from one prisoner to the next, offering blankets, treating wounds, pressing warm canteens into frozen hands. None of them expected kindness here. Certainly not from the enemy. And yet, something in the air shifts. War has been their world for 6 long years, carving away every soft thing inside them. Yet here, on a cold April morning, American soldiers are doing something they never imagined, restoring their humanity. But the medics haven't told them everything. Not yet, because Carter has seen something at the edge of the field that is about to change the mood completely. A discovery that could turn this moment of mercy into a confrontation none of them are prepared for. Carter's head turns sharply toward the far end of the clearing, toward a long, half-collapsed barn with its doors hanging crooked on rusted hinges. A thin column of smoke curls lazily from a gap in the roof, too faint to be from a fire, too steady to be an accident. One of the medics notices. "Lieutenant, you see that?" Carter doesn't answer at first. He narrows his eyes, scanning the barn silhouette against the pale morning sky. The structure is dark, quiet, but not dead. Something is inside. Something or someone alive. "Keep working," he mutters to his team. "MP's with me." The women POWs watch as the lieutenant steps away, boots cutting a straight path through the frost. Their fear spikes again, not of the Americans this time, but of what the barn might hold. Because they know what's in there. Or rather, whom. A tall woman at the end of the line lowers her gaze. Her face goes pale. Her lips part, but no sound comes out. She tries to speak twice before a whisper finally escapes. The guards. The medics freeze. Klein translates, his voice tight. She says there are German guards inside. That changes everything. The MPs instinctively rest their hands on their weapons. The medics exchange glances. This was supposed to be a humanitarian stop, not firefight. Carter keeps moving, one deliberate step at a time. Inside the barn, something shifts, a faint thud, the scrape of wood on dirt. Carter signals the MPs to fan out. 2 take position by the door, 1 on each side, rifles raised but fingers off the triggers. Another circles around the back. The barn is large enough to hide a squad, or desperate enough men. Carter steps forward, voice steady but loud enough to carry. U.S. Army Medical Corps. "Show yourselves." Silence. Only the creak of settling beams answers him. He tries again, slower. "Identify yourselves." Now, a faint metallic sound echoes from within, like a weapon being cocked. One MP mutters, "That's not good." The women POWs flinch at the noise. A few squeeze their eyes shut. They know the men inside. They know their orders. Guard units weren't supposed to surrender. Many have been told to die, fighting rather than face capture. Some believed Allied troops would kill them on sight. Fear makes men unpredictable. Cornered men, even more so. Carter raises a hand, motioning for silence. He listens. Nothing. And then, a single cough. Not a threatening cough. A weak one. A sick one. Carter exchanges a look with the nearest MP. He lowers his voice. "Hold position. I'm going in." The MP's eyes widen. "Sir, we don't know how many are in there." "That's exactly why I'm going in." Carter snaps, not with anger but urgency. If they're wounded or frostbitten like the women, they won't last an hour. He doesn't wait for permission. He pushes the barn door open with his shoulder. It groans painfully but gives way, swinging inward just enough for a thin shaft of morning light to spill into the darkness. At first, he sees nothing but dust. Then shapes. 3 men sit slumped against the far wall, bundled in tattered gray coats. Their rifles lie on the ground, not aimed at anything, just abandoned, as if too heavy to lift. One man, young and feverish, stares up at Carter with a glassy, terrified expression. They're not guards anymore. They're barely soldiers, and they're not a threat to anyone. Carter steps inside, letting his eyes adjust. A moment passes before the truth hits him. These men aren't hiding from the Americans. They're hiding from the cold, from starvation, from death. One tries to speak. His lips are blue. His voice cracks. Bit. Wasser. Water. Carter exhales sharply, relief mixed with something deeper. Compassion, maybe, or frustration that this war keeps showing him new ways humans can break. He turns and signals for the medics. They're not hostile. Bring water, blankets, and a stretcher. Now. The MPs lower their weapons, tension draining from their faces. The women outside the barn exchange glances, stunned. Their guards, men they feared, men who commanded them, men who shouted orders and threats, are being treated like patients too? A medic rushes forward, kneeling beside the youngest of the German men. He checks a pulse, then looks up at Carter. He's burning up. Infection and exposure both. Carter nods grimly. We stabilize them here, then get them to the aid station. The German man tries to lift his hand. It shakes violently. He reaches toward Carter, not in defiance, but in bewildered gratitude. Warm? He whispers. Why? Carter answers simply, because the war's almost over, and I'm still a doctor. It's the kind of line that sticks to the air long after it's spoken. Behind them, the barn door creaks again. One of the women, thin, exhausted, wrapped in an American blanket, stands just outside, staring at the scene unfolding inside. The moment she realizes her guard are being treated just like her, something shifts in her expression. Confusion, relief, maybe even the beginning of trust. She steps closer, voice trembling. Lieutenant, there are more. More? Where? Carter asks. The woman lifts a shaking hand and points to the old storage cellar beneath the barn, its trapdoor half hidden by hay. Her voice breaks as she speaks. They locked the sickest ones below. Carter freezes. The MPs stare. The medics exchange horrified looks. If there are men trapped beneath this barn, in this cold, in this condition, every second counts. Carter moves toward the trapdoor without hesitation. His voice cuts the air like a blade. Get that door open. The medics leap into action, pulling hay aside, clearing debris, gripping the rusted iron ring embedded in the hatch. One medic strains, muscles trembling. It's stuck. Carter grabs the ring with him. On 3. 1, 2. The hatch gives a violent crack as it tears open, dust exploding upward. A wave of freezing, foul air rushes out. And then, from below, a faint, desperate sound rises from the darkness. A voice, barely a whisper, but unmistakably alive. Bit Helfen, please help. Carter stares into the black void beneath the barn, heart pounding. Whatever lies down there, it's worse than he imagined. The smell hits them first. A thick, sour mixture of sweat, rot, and damp earth rises from the darkness below the trapdoor, so strong it forces one medic to turn his head and swallow hard. Even the MPs, hardened by months of combat, take a step back. Carter doesn't move. He lowers himself to one knee, leaning over the opening. Cold air pours out, colder than the morning frost, air that has been trapped for days, maybe weeks. The faint voice drifts upward again, thin as paper. Bit. Carter grabs his flashlight, clicks it on, and shines it into the blackness. For a moment, nothing. Just dirt walls, old beams, and a ragged set of steps descending into darkness. Then the light catches shapes. Bodies. Not corpses. At least not all of them, but men lying in contorted positions, trying to stay warm in a space barely large enough for a storage room. The medics exchange horrified glances. One whispers, "Dear God." Carter doesn't hesitate. We're going down. The MPs tense. Sir, it might not be safe. Neither is leaving them. Carter's voice is sharp, unyielding. Lamp, rope, and 2 volunteers. Move. The medics don't hesitate. War has trained them to function on instinct. 3 men gather supplies, tying a rope around Carter's waist in case the stairs collapse. The women POWs watch from a distance, faces pale, stunned. Some clasp blankets tighter around themselves. Others whisper prayers. They know what the cellar is. It was used when the guards didn't want the sick and weak visible. It was a place for storage and for abandonment. Carter grips the rope, plants his boot on the first step, and descends. The wooden stairs groan, bending under his weight. Dust floats upward with each step, swirling in his flashlight beam like drifting snow. Halfway down, the air becomes almost painfully cold. His breath fogs instantly. At the bottom, his boots sink into damp soil. His flashlight beam sweeps the room, and the full horror reveals itself. 5 men lie in a huddled cluster against the far wall, bodies half covered in old burlap sacks. Their skin is waxy, stretched thin over bone. Frostbite mottles their fingers. One man's eyes are swollen nearly shut. Another's lips are bloodless, cracked down the center. They flinch at the light, too weak to lift their arms. Carter kneels beside the closest man, a corporal maybe, though his uniform is too shredded to tell. He places 2 fingers gently on the man's throat. A pulse. Faint. But there. Carter exhales, the tension in his shoulders loosening just a fraction. "We've got survivors," he calls up. Above, muffled sounds of movement, equipment being prepared, blankets shaken out, stretchers set into position. The corporal in Carter's arms blinks slowly, eyes glassy and unfocused. His voice is barely audible. "Americaner? American?" "Yes," Carter says softly. "You're safe now." The man's gaze trembles. His lips form a question. "Warham? Helfin? Why help?" Carter doesn't answer immediately. The truth is complicated. Mercy doesn't erase atrocities. Compassion doesn't excuse guilt. But these men aren't soldiers anymore. They're human beings with one thread of life left. "Because we can," Carter finally answers. "And because you need it." A small, broken sound escapes the man's throat. A sound halfway between relief and grief. Carter signals to the medics above. "Lower the stretcher." Slow. A rope creaks as the stretcher descends through the hatch. Dust falls from the beams. Carter steadies it, bracing it with his shoulder until it touches the cellar floor. He slides the first man gently onto it, making sure to lift what little weight remains in the man's arms so he doesn't tear already damaged skin. As the stretcher rises toward the light of day, the man's eyes flicker open again. He sees the sky, pale and cold, but open, and begins to cry silently. 2 medics above catch the stretcher and hurry him toward the waiting truck. Carter turns back to the others. A medic climbs halfway down a ladder, face grim. "Lieutenant." One of them isn't moving. Carter moves quickly to the far corner. A man lies on his side, motionless, his breathing shallow enough that Carter has to lean close to hear it. His hand rests over his stomach, fingers curled protectively around a scrap of something. A photograph. Carter gently removes it from the man's grip. A woman and 2 small children smile back, frozen in a different world. A world before the war swallowed everything. Carter closes his eyes briefly. He's alive, but barely. The medic nods, swallowing hard. For the next 10 minutes, the cellar becomes a flurry of movement, controlled, careful, desperate. Medics shuttle blankets, canteens, stretchers. Carter checks vitals, administers morphine, stabilizes legs stiffened by cold. One by one, the survivors are lifted out of the darkness. As the last stretcher rises, Carter climbs the ladder himself, boots emerging from the cellar like he's stepping from a grave. The women POWs stand in stunned silence. They've just watched the Americans rescue the men who once commanded them. They've watched their enemy fight to save more Germans in 20 minutes than the Wehrmacht had cared to save in the last 6 months. And as Carter steps fully into the daylight, one of the women finally speaks what all of them are thinking. "You treat us the same." Carter wipes dust from his hands, breath steaming in the cold. "Ma'am," he says softly, "pain doesn't have a uniform." The words hang in the air, heavy, unforgettable. But as the medics prepare the wounded for transport, Carter sees something that freezes him in place. A figure standing at the edge of the tree line, watching, unmoving, not American, not one of the POWs, and holding a rifle. The figure stands half-hidden between the pines, still, silent, almost blending with the shadows. For a moment, Carter thinks his eyes are playing tricks on him. The morning mist curls through the branches, distorting shapes, turning bushes into silhouettes. But this isn't a trick of the fog. This is a man with a rifle raised. An icy instinct crawls up Carter's spine. "Lieutenant," one of the MPs murmurs, hand drifting toward his sidearm. "I see him," Carter whispers. The medics freeze mid-movement. Stretchers hover inches above the ground. Even the POW women seem to feel the shift in the air. Their chatter dies instantly, their eyes snapping toward the tree line. The man steps forward just enough for the light to catch the insignia on his sleeve, tattered, dirty, but unmistakable. Volkssturm, not a soldier, not trained, a civilian militia fighter, maybe 60 years old, pressed into service in the final weeks of the war. A man told that surrender was betrayal. A man whose world is collapsing around him. His hands shake on the rifle, not from fear, but from exhaustion, hunger, cold. He's choosing his moment. A single shot could hit Carter, or an MP, or one of the wounded men being carried. Carter raises his hand slowly, as if calming a frightened horse. "Put the rifle down," he calls out. "No one here is going to hurt you." The man doesn't respond. His eyes flick between Carter, the medics, the women, POWs, trying to process the scene before him. The Americans aren't shooting anyone. They're helping Germans, even the guards, even the sick. His world doesn't have a place for that. And when reality doesn't fit belief, belief fights back. He cocks the rifle. MPs snap into position instantly. Two soldiers raise their weapons, aiming past Carter's shoulders. Carter's voice cuts through the tension like a blade. "Don't fire." He steps forward. The MPs hiss, "Lieutenant, get back." But Carter keeps walking. Slow, measured, deliberate. He knows something the MPs don't. A man on the edge, starving, freezing, terrified, doesn't need reasons. He needs relief. "You don't want to do this," Carter calls out. "Not today. Not with the war days from being over." The man's voice comes out cracked, ragged, as if forced through a throat left too long in the cold. "You kill my son." Carter stops. Just stops. The medics exchange horrified glances. The MPs tighten their fingers on their triggers. The man's breathing is uneven, chest rising in short, panicked bursts. "Artillery," he spits. "When you shell the road outside Magdeburg." He was 17. His rifle wavers. Not lowering, not steady, just trembling under the weight of the man's grief. Carter lowers his hands, not in surrender, but in understanding. "I'm sorry," he says quietly. "Truly, I can't change what happened to your son." The man's eyes flicker, uncertain. "But look around you," Carter continues. "We're helping your people. We're saving men the Wehrmacht abandoned. We didn't have to, but we did." The man's breathing slows a little. Carter nods toward the line of medics. "You think we're monsters? Look at them. Half of them are barely more than kids. They volunteer to save lives, not take them." A long silence. The cold wind stirs the branches overhead. Carter takes one more step, close enough now that he can see the man's finger trembling on the trigger. "You've lost enough," Carter says softly. "Don't lose yourself too." For a moment, everything hangs on a thread. One heartbeat too loud, one twitch too fast. Then, the man's shoulders collapse inward. His rifle dips, then lowers fully. Carter exhales, not relief, not triumph, but something quieter, something like sorrow. The MPs rush forward. They disarm the man gently, almost respectfully, easing the rifle from his shaking hands. He doesn't resist. He simply stares at the ground, eyes unfocused. As they guide him toward the trucks, he whispers a single sentence, voice breaking. "I didn't want to be the last killer of a war already lost." Carter nods, understanding far deeper than he wishes he did. But before he can speak, another voice calls out sharply from the medics cluster near the barn. "Lieutenant, you need to see this." Carter turns. The urgency in the medic's voice is unmistakable. He moves quickly, boots crunching over frost and dirt, weaving past the POW women and stretchers until he reaches the open rear compartment of the medical truck. The medic steps aside, revealing what they found when they checked the pockets of the newly rescued men. A folded piece of paper, edges burnt, ink smeared, but still legible. A German field order, signed 2 days earlier. Carter reads it, and his face drains of color. It isn't about the guards. It isn't about the cellar. It's about the POW women. Specifically, a directive ordering all female auxiliaries in the district to be evacuated or eliminated to prevent their capture by American forces. Eliminated. Carter feels the cold seep through his bones. The order is dated April 16th, 2 days before the Americans arrived, and someone tried to carry it out. He looks at the barn, at the cellar, at the women standing in blankets, still trembling. Suddenly, everything shifts. They weren't just abandoned. They were left for dead. The paper slips from Carter's fingers before he catches it again, gripping it tighter this time, as if afraid the truth might escape back into the cold morning air. He reads the stamped seal twice. The date, the signature, the chilling phrase repeated along the bottom margin. King Gefangenen, Kane Zugen, No prisoners. No witnesses. A medic swears under his breath. Another runs a hand through his hair, eyes wide. Carter doesn't speak. Not yet. His jaw works, but the words don't come. He forces himself to look at the women gathered behind him, watching with nervous confusion. Blankets wrapped around their shoulders. Hands clutching rations they barely dare to eat. They have no idea. Klein, the German-speaking medic, sees Carter's expression and steps closer. What does it say, sir? Carter exhales slowly. Translate it. They deserve to know. Klein takes the order, scans it, and his face drains. Oh God! The women sense the shift instantly. Their murmurs quiet. Their bodies stiffen once more, instinctively bracing for punishment or bad news. Whereas taught them that silence is almost never good. Klein steps forward. His voice trembles at first, then steadies as he forces himself to be clear. This order was sent 2 days ago. It says all women serving as auxiliaries or civilian support in this district were to be removed before the Americans arrived. One woman nods, confused but not alarmed. Yes, we were told to march. But the guards. Klein swallows. There's more. Carter closes his eyes for a brief second, bracing himself. A storm is coming, an emotional one. It says, Klein continues, throat tight, that if evacuation was impossible, you were to be, he hesitates. The word sticks like ice. Eliminated. For a moment, nothing moves. Then the meaning lands. The first gasp comes from the older woman near the back. Sharp, involuntary, as if something inside her has just snapped. Others flinch as though struck. A few shake their heads violently, refusing to believe it. One young woman covers her mouth with both hands, her blanket slipping from her shoulders. Eliminated? By whom? No, that cannot. They wouldn't do that to us. They wouldn't. They would. And they nearly did. Carter steps forward, voice calm but firm. They locked the sickest men in the cellar to die. He gestures toward the rescued guards. They abandoned their own. Do you really think they'd hesitate with anyone else? One woman drops to her knees, eyes wet, staring at the barn as if seeing it for the first time. Another whispers, they said we were needed, that we were important. Carter shakes his head. Not to them. Not anymore. Silence hangs heavy, too heavy. The women aren't crying now. They're processing. Grief is one thing. Betrayal, another entirely. The woman who spoke earlier, the one who pointed out the cellar, stares at the paper in Klein's hand, then at Carter. Why show us this? She asks, voice cracking. Because it's the truth, Carter says quietly. And because you deserve to know why we're here. One of the MPs steps beside him, boots planted firmly in the frosted mud. Lieutenant, what now? Carter turns toward the medical truck, toward the wounded guards, toward the cellar they just emptied. His breath forms a cloud in the cold air as he answers. We get them all out of here. The wounded, the women, the old man, everyone. We're not leaving a single soul in this place. It's not a tactical order. It's a moral one. The MPs nod. The medics nod. Even the women, still trembling, straighten their backs with a new sense of purpose. They've been saved once already, by chance, by timing, by the mercy of the enemy they've been taught to fear. Now, their survival has a name, a date, a reason. And that reason is standing in front of them, giving orders with a calm they cling to like a lifeline. Carter hands the field order back to Klein. Keep it. Command will want to see it. The medics resume work, faster now, with urgency instead of routine. Blankets wrap tighter. Water canteens pass from hand to hand. Stretchers slide into the trucks. Frostbite is bandaged. Fevers are checked. Life is fought for. Carter moves from patient to patient, encouraging, coaching, checking pulses. Every German he touches, soldier or civilian, male or female, looks at him the same way. With confusion, with gratitude, with disbelief that anyone is still choosing to save lives in a world trained to take them. But amidst the controlled chaos, something catches Carter's eye. A young woman, no more than 20, stands apart from the others. She hasn't eaten a ration bar in her hand. She hasn't spoken. She stares at the ground, shoulders shaking. Carter approaches slowly. Are you hurt? She shakes her head. No. Her voice is barely audible. He kneels slightly to meet her eye level. What's wrong? She hesitates, then looks up at him, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. My brother. He was one of the guards. Her voice breaks. You carried him out of the cellar. Carter softens. He's alive. We'll do everything we can for him. The woman clutches the ration bar so tightly it cracks inside the wrapper. I thought. She swallows hard. I thought you would shoot him. Carter shakes his head gently. We're not here to settle scores. Her breath trembles. But why? After what we did. After what Germany did. He answers without hesitation, without anger, without accusation. Because if we become the kind of men who let people die when we can save them, he glances toward the cellar, then the war takes something from us too. Something we don't get back. The woman breaks down entirely. Not in fear, but in relief so overwhelming it cracks her open. Carter places a hand on her shoulder, steady but respectful. But then, before she can speak again, a truck horn blares from the road beyond the field. Everyone turns. Another American convoy is approaching. Bigger, faster. Medical trucks, jeeps, ambulances, and a single armored car for protection. The relief column. They're arriving hours earlier than scheduled. And they're bringing news. Urgent news. News that will change what happens next. The convoy barrels down the rutted road. Mud spraying, engines roaring, canvas flapping in the cutting wind. A column of jeeps and ambulances follows the lead armored car. Its .50 cal barrel swiveling back and forth, as if the war might leap from the trees at any second. Carter steps forward, shielding his eyes from the glare of the rising sun. Something in the speed of the vehicles, the urgency in their braking, tells him this isn't a routine supply run. A jeep skids to a halt, so abruptly the front wheels dig into the mud. A captain jumps out before the engine even finishes rumbling, boots splashing as he hurries toward Carter. "Lieutenant Carter," the man shouts. "Where's Carter?" Carter moves toward him. "Right here, Captain." "What's going on?" The captain, Captain Marcus Elwood, 116th Evacuation Hospital Liaison, pulls off his gloves with a single sharp motion. His expression is carved from worry and adrenaline. "Command got wind of something," Elwood says, breathing hard. "Intercepted dispatches last night. High priority." Carter's eyes narrow. "About this sector?" Elwood nods grimly. "More than this sector. This whole region." The medics drift closer, listening. The POW women edge forward too, clutching their blankets, faces tight with dread. Elwood continues. SHD Intel intercepted a German communique from the 4th Army remnants. They issued what they call a purge directive in a last-ditch attempt to hide, well, anything they deemed compromising. Carter feels a coldness inside him that has nothing to do with the air. "What does that mean, Marcus?" Elwood scans the faces around him, the women, the wounded men on stretchers, the medics, the MPs. "It means," he says quietly, "every camp holding site and auxiliary group that couldn't retreat toward the Elbe was ordered to be wiped out." A ripple of horror passes through the group. One woman covers her mouth. Another staggers backward. A few simply stop breathing for a second. Carter's voice is low. "Controlled. Dangerous. Wiped out how?" Elwood meets his eyes. "By their own units. The Army. The SS. Anyone still with the nerve to carry out orders." The weight of the words settles like a hammer. Carter glances at the women, at their torn boots, their hollow cheeks, the blankets wrapped around their trembling bodies. He glances at the barn, the cellar where the guards were found abandoned, freezing to death. He glances at the field order in Klein's hand. The chilling phrase, "No prisoners, no witnesses." This wasn't an isolated decision. It was part of something much bigger. "How many sites?" Carter asks. Elwood hesitates, and that hesitation says more than any number could. "Too many," he finally answers. "We're sweeping them as fast as we can. Yours is the first we found alive." Alive. The word hits like a punch. Carter looks at the women again. Once more, their survival isn't chance. It's a razor-thin margin, a hair's width of timing. A few hours, maybe minutes, between life and execution. If the Americans had been delayed, if the guards had followed their orders, if the Folkster man had been more loyal than frightened, none of them would be standing here. A murmur rises among the women. Fear, confusion, disbelief. One steps forward, the tall woman who first warned about the cellar. Her voice trembles, but she forces each word out. "How long? How long have we been marked for death?" Elwood looks at Carter. Carter answers, "Since the moment Berlin realized it couldn't protect you." The woman's knees buckle. A medic catches her before she collapses. Elwood presses on, urgency sharpening his tone. "There's more. Command wants this group moved immediately, and not to the local aid station. You're all being transferred to a neutral zone 2 sectors west. Safer, fortified, fully cleared. We can't risk reprisals." Reprisals. Carter feels the word twist painfully in his gut. Some German units, even in collapse, were still carrying out fanatical last stands, killing stragglers, executing deserters, wiping out civilians to erase records. Desperate men cornered by the inevitability of defeat were capable of anything. Anything. He turns to the MPs, load the women first, then the wounded. Double security on the perimeter. The MPs snap into motion. One of the younger women, clutching her blanket close, steps toward Carter, eyes red but steady. "Why?" she asks softly. "Why are you protecting us when our own people left us to die?" Carter doesn't answer immediately. He meets her gaze, eyes that have seen too much, believed too much, survived too much. Then he says the only truth that feels honest. Because war shows what people are willing to destroy, but it also shows what they're willing to save. The woman's lip quivers. She nods once, unable to speak. A second jeep pulls up beside Elwood. A corporal jumps down and salutes sharply. "Sir." Scout Patrol reports fresh truck tracks heading north from the forest line. Heavy vehicle. German. Elwood grimaces. They might be coming back to finish what they started. The women freeze as the implication sinks in. Carter doesn't waste a second. "Get them on the trucks," he shouts. "Now!" Medics rush forward. MPs lift stretchers. Women are guided gently, but urgently, toward the convoy. The field becomes a storm of movement, boots pounding, metal clanging, engines rumbling back to life. But as Carter helps the last wounded guard onto a stretcher, he sees something in the distance. A dust cloud, growing, fast, engines, multiple, not American. He feels his heartbeat quicken. The Germans are coming back, and this time, they won't be rescuing anyone. The distant engines rise like a growl from the earth, low at first, then louder, vibrating through the frost-hardened ground. Carter looks toward the tree line where the dust cloud thickens, curling upward into the cold air like smoke from storm about to break. The convoy isn't slowing. It's accelerating. "Everyone move." Carter shouts, voice cracking across the clearing like a whip. Chaos erupts, controlled chaos, but chaos all the same. Medics pivot from careful handling to rapid evacuation. MPs wave women toward the trucks, guiding them with urgency but not force. Blankets flutter behind them like torn flags in the wind. The injured guards, too weak to walk, are loaded onto stretchers two at a time. Boots pound, metal rattles. Engines roar to life in a staggered sequence, creating an almost orchestral urgency. Above it all, that growing thunder. German engines, German wheels, German intent. Carter moves fast, faster than his body wants, faster than his breath allows. He helps lift a stretcher into the first truck, then spins immediately toward the barn where two medics are struggling to get a fevers guard upright. "Hurry," Carter urges, sliding under the man's arm. "We're out of time." One of the medics mutters. They weren't supposed to be back. Not this fast. Carter knows. The Germans retreating north shouldn't have looped back. But panic does strange things. Orders twisted by desperation do even stranger. As they hoist the guard onto the truck bed, a crackle erupts from the road beyond the clearing. The radio in Elwood's Jeep. Multiple vehicles approaching fast, might be SS. Repeat, possible SS vehicles. Carter's stomach sinks. Not Wehrmacht. Not Volkssturm. Not stragglers. If it's SS, they won't negotiate. They won't hesitate. They will carry out the order without remorse. No prisoners. No witnesses. Elwood slams the radio handset down, face pale. "Lieutenant, we have to leave now." Carter nods sharply. "We're almost there." But almost isn't good enough, not with death closing in from the tree line. He turns and sees the tall woman who saved them from missing the cellar survivors. She stands frozen beside the truck, staring at the dust cloud like she's watching a nightmare return to finish what it started. Her breath shakes. "They're coming back for us," she whispers. Carter grabs her shoulders gently but firmly. "Not if I can help it. Get in the truck." She hesitates, fear anchoring her. Carter lifts her into the truck himself, then shouts to the medic inside, "Stay with her." As he turns back toward the field, an MP sprints past him. "Lieutenant," the MP gasps. "We got one more." The old Volkssturm man. They left him sitting by the trees. Carter curses under his breath. He'd forgotten the old man, the one who lowered his rifle, who surrendered rather than become another casualty of a dying war. The man sits slumped beside a tree trunk now, too exhausted to move, head bowed. He won't survive the Germans' return. Not as a traitor. Not as a witness. Not as anything. Carter bolts across the field, boots kicking up cold mud. "Sir," Elwood calls. We don't have time. Make time. Carter snaps back. He reaches the old man, drops to one knee, and tries to haul him up. The man's breath rattles weakly. You should go, he croaks. Let me be. They won't care about me. They will, Carter says. And that's exactly why I'm not leaving you here. The old man's eyes widen, confusion, disbelief, and a glimmer of something like hope. Carter gets him under one arm, then the other, lifting him with a strength born from pure necessity. Behind them, the engines roar louder, so loud now that the ground trembles. Elwood shouts, "Contact! They're almost here." A jeep's horn blares. An MP shouts. Someone yells, "Move! Move!" Carter drags the old man toward the last truck as MPs form a line between the convoy and the tree line. Rifles raised, using vehicles as improvised cover. They won't win a firefight against SS troops, not with this small of a force, but they can delay long enough to get everyone out. Maybe, if they're lucky. Carter stumbles once, knees buckling under the old man's weight, but pushes forward. Another medic rushes out to help, throwing the old man's other arm over his shoulder. Almost there, the medic pants. The last truck revs impatiently, its driver leaning out the window. Let's go. We gotta move. They reach the tailgate. Carter and the medic hoist the old man up, arms trembling with effort. Two MPs grab him from above, pulling him the rest of the way inside. Carter jumps onto the tailgate, just as something cracks through the air. A gunshot, then another, then a burst. The SS is close enough to fire. Move out, Elwood roars. Engines scream. Trucks lurch forward. The convoy surges down the road like a single living creature, leaving the clearing behind just as figures in black uniforms break from the tree line. Rifles flash. Muzzle fire erupts. Bullets crack overhead. Women in the trucks duck and scream. Medics shield the wounded with their own bodies. MPs fire back in controlled bursts, buying seconds, just seconds. Carter grips the truck frame, breath slamming in and out, adrenaline burning through every vein. As the distance grows and the forest thins, the gunfire fades, slowly, painfully, like a storm receding behind them. But doesn't disappear. Not completely. The SS doesn't give up easily. Elwood leans out of the lead jeep, shouting over the roar of engines. They're not stopping. We've got pursuit. Carter turns toward the women huddled in the truck. Faces pale, eyes wide, blankets clutched like armor. The old Folkster man shivers beside them. The wounded guards groan on stretchers. The medics whisper reassurances they don't believe. And Carter knows. They're not safe yet. Not even close. The convoy barrels down the forest road, engines screaming in protest as the drivers push every gear to its limits. The trucks bounce violently over frozen ruts, each jolt sending shockwaves through the wounded, the POW women, and the medics trying desperately to keep everyone stable. Behind them, the pursuing engines grow louder, closer, hungrier. Carter leans out the back of the last truck, gripping the metal frame with white knuckles. The cold air slashes across his face, stinging his eyes, whipping his uniform. He squints through the spray of dirt and frost churned up by the wheels. And there, emerging from the forest shadows, he sees them. 3 German trucks, black uniformed shapes clinging to the sides. Rifles braced, determination carved into every movement. SS, closing the distance. Faster. Carter yells toward the cab. They're gaining. The driver shouts back. We're already hitting everything this engine can give. The truck swerves sharply as it dodges a fallen tree limb, nearly pitching the people in the back over the side. Women scream. A medic grabs the old Folkster man just before he slips from the tailgate. Carter hauls them all down, shouting, "Stay low." A burst of gunfire cracks behind them. Bullets spit into the road, kicking up sparks and dirt. One pings off the truck's metal frame inches from Carter's hand. The old man flinches violently. The younger women cover their heads. Elwood's voice bellows over the convoy radio. Left turn coming. Narrow bridge ahead. Carter hears it, and his stomach turns. That bridge. He knows that bridge. A narrow wooden crossing over a small ravine carved by snow melt and runoff. Barely wide enough for 2 jeeps. For trucks? It will be a miracle if they make it across without sliding off the edge. But there's no choice. They either take it or get run down. The lead jeep hits the turn first, tires screaming. The armored car grinds after it, scraping bark off the trees as it squeezes through the narrow bend. The first truck follows, fishtailing wildly. Carter's truck is last. He pounds on the cab. Take it. Go. The convoy snakes toward the bridge, drivers fighting physics, shouting warnings, bracing for disaster. Behind them, the SS trucks roar even louder. And then, Carter sees something that freezes his breath. One of the SS trucks is carrying a mounted machine gun, a German MG-42, the kind that spits death like a chainsaw of fire. It swings upward. The gunner braces. The barrel aligns perfectly with Carter's truck. Carter's eyes widen. He throws his body forward. Down. Everyone down. The MG-42 opens fire. A ripping, metallic scream tears the air apart. Rounds hammer the road behind the truck. Sparks exploding, dirt erupting, metal shrieking as a few strike the rear bumper. Women cry out and flatten themselves. Medics throw themselves over the wounded with reckless courage. The old folkster man curls into himself, hands over his head, whispering, "Bitneen." The truck jolts violently as it hits a patch of loose gravel. Carter grabs the frame to keep from being thrown clear. Ahead, the bridge looms thin, fragile, and far too narrow. Elwood's Jeep reaches it first, skidding onto the planks, wheels scraping dangerously close to the edge. The armored car follows, its weight making the wood groan like a dying animal. The first evacuation truck hits the bridge next, then the second. Carter's truck is still on the approach, and the MG-42 is still firing. Elwood shoves open his passenger door and stands half out of the Jeep, waving frantically. "Carter, move it. They'll pin you on the approach." Carter turns and sees the SS trucks splitting, one taking the main road, another veering off a rough side path that cuts through the underbrush to intercept the bridge exit. His blood runs cold. "They're trying to box us in." Carter shouts. The driver slams the accelerator. The engine screams in protest as the truck surges forward. But then, a burst of MG-42 fire hits the tree line beside them, splintering bark into explosions of wood fragments. The young German woman closest to Carter gasps, tears streaking mud down her cheeks. They want to kill us. All of us." Carter doesn't sugarcoat it. "Yes," he says. "They do." Then he adds, with a hardness she's never heard from him, "But they're going to fail." The SS trucks close in behind, headlights flashing, men shouting, rifle barrels bristling like teeth. The bridge is seconds away. Elwood yells into the convoy radio. "Once Carter's truck is on the bridge, I want suppression fire on that tree line. Buy them 5 seconds, just 5. MPs in the armored car swing around. 2 soldiers leap into firing positions on the bridge exit. Rifles and carbines brace against metal. The first truck makes it, then the second. Carter's truck hits the planks just as the MG-42 opens up again. Bullets chewing into the dirt where the truck had been a half-second earlier. The truck wobbles dangerously as the wheels hit the bridge. The wooden planks creak. The weight shifts. The rear end skids sideways for a terrifying heartbeat, and then grips, just barely. Carter feels the bridge flex under them. Hold together, halfway across. Behind them, the MG-42 pauses to reload, a tiny sliver of mercy in a morning built of violence. Ahead, Elwood waves them through the gauntlet. Faster, the truck makes the final stretch. But something is wrong. The wood under the right rear wheel cracks, splintering wide, groaning like a bone snapping. Carter braces for the plunge, women screaming, medics shouting, the old man clutching at the side rails. But the truck's weight shifts forward, tires finding grip again. They clear the bridge. The armored car fires. MP rifles spit flame. The SS brakes hard, losing ground. For the first time in minutes, Carter exhales. But then, Elwood's Jeep screeches to a halt. He stands up in the back seat, shouting to Carter with a voice edged in dread. "Lieutenant, we've got a problem up ahead." Carter turns, and he sees it. Blocking the road is a collapsed supply truck, burned out, shattered, blocking almost the entire pass. One way forward, one way back. Elwood leans out of the lead Jeep, shouting over the roar of engines. "They're not stopping. We've got pursuit." Carter turns toward the women huddled in the truck, faces pale, eyes wide, blankets clutched like armor. The old folkster man shivers beside them. The wounded guards groan on stretchers. The medics whisper reassurances they don't believe. And Carter knows. They're not safe yet. Not even close. The convoy barrels down the forest road, engines screaming in protest as the drivers push every gear to its limits. The trucks bounce violently over frozen ruts, each jolt sending shockwaves through the wounded, the POW women, and the medics trying desperately to keep everyone stable. Behind them, the pursuing engines grow louder. Closer. Hungrier. Carter leans out the back of the last truck, gripping the metal frame with white knuckles. The cold air slashes across his face, stinging his eyes, whipping his uniform. He squints through the spray of dirt and frost churned up by the wheels. And there, emerging from the forest shadows, he sees them. 3 German trucks. Black uniformed shapes clinging to the sides. Rifles braced. Determination carved into every movement. SS. Closing the distance. Faster. Carter yells toward the cab. They're gaining. The driver shouts back. We're already hitting everything this engine can give. The truck swerves sharply as it dodges a fallen tree limb, nearly pitching the people in the back over the side. Women scream. A medic grabs the old Folkster man just before he slips from the tailgate. Carter hauls them all down, shouting, "Stay low." A burst of gunfire cracks behind them. Bullets spit into the road, kicking up sparks and dirt. One pings off the truck's metal frame inches from Carter's hand. The old man flinches violently. The younger women cover their heads. Elwood's voice bellows over the convoy radio. Left turn coming. Narrow bridge ahead. Carter hears it, and his stomach turns. That bridge. He knows that bridge. A narrow wooden crossing over a small ravine, carved by snow melt and runoff. Barely wide enough for 2 jeeps. For trucks? It will be a miracle if they make it across without sliding off the edge. But there's no choice. They either take it or get run down. The lead jeep hits the turn first, tires screaming. The armored car grinds after it, scraping bark off the trees as it squeezes through the narrow bend. The first truck follows, fishtailing wildly. Carter's truck is last. He pounds on the cab. Take it. Go. The convoy snakes toward the bridge, drivers fighting physics, shouting warnings, bracing for disaster. Behind them, the SS trucks roar even louder. And then, Carter sees something that freezes his breath. One of the SS trucks is carrying a mounted machine gun. A German MG-42. The kind that spits death like a chainsaw fire. It swings upward. The gunner braces. The barrel aligns perfectly with Carter's truck. Carter's eyes widen. He throws his body forward. Down. Everyone down. The MG-42 opens fire. A ripping, metallic scream tears the air apart. Rounds hammer the road behind the truck. Sparks exploding, dirt erupting, metal shrieking as a few strike the rear bumper. Women cry out and flatten themselves. Medics throw themselves over the wounded with reckless courage. The old Folkster man curls into himself. Hands over his head, whispering, "Bitneen." The truck jolts violently as it hits a patch of loose gravel. Carter grabs the frame to keep from being thrown clear. Ahead, the bridge looms thin, fragile, and far too narrow. Elwood's jeep reaches it first, skidding onto the planks, wheels scraping dangerously close to the edge. The armored car follows, its weight making the wood groan like a dying animal. The first evacuation truck hits the bridge next, then the second. Carter's truck is still on the approach, and the MG-42 is still firing. Elwood shoves open his passenger door and stands half out of the jeep, waving frantically. "Carter, move it. They'll pin you on the approach." Carter turns and sees the SS trucks splitting, one taking the main road, another veering off a rough side path that cuts through the underbrush to intercept the bridge exit. His blood runs cold. "They're trying to box us in." Carter shouts. The driver slams the accelerator. The engine screams in protest as the truck surges forward. But then, a burst of MG-42 fire hits the tree line beside them, splintering bark into explosions of wood fragments. The young German woman closest to Carter gasps, tears streaking mud down her cheeks. They want to kill us. All of us. Carter doesn't sugarcoat it. "Yes," he says. "They do." Then he adds, with a hardness she's never heard from him, "But they're going to fail." The SS trucks close in behind, headlights flashing, men shouting, rifle barrels bristling like teeth. The bridge is seconds away. Elwood yells into the convoy radio. "Once Carter's truck is on the bridge, I want suppression fire on that tree line. Buy them 5 seconds, just 5. MPs in the armored car swing around. 2 soldiers leap into firing positions on the bridge exit. Rifles and carbines brace against metal. The first truck makes it, then the second. Carter's truck hits the planks just as the MG-42 opens up again. Bullets chewing into the dirt where the truck had been a half-second earlier. The truck wobbles dangerously as the wheels hit the bridge. The wooden planks creak. The weight shifts. The rear end skids sideways for a terrifying heartbeat, and then grips, just barely. Carter feels the bridge flex under them. Hold together, halfway across. Behind them, the MG-42 pauses to reload, a tiny sliver of mercy in a morning built of violence. Ahead, Elwood waves them through the gauntlet. Faster, the truck makes the final stretch. But something is wrong. The wood under the right rear wheel cracks, splintering wide, groaning like a bone snapping. Carter braces for the plunge. Women screaming, medics shouting, the old man clutching at the side rails. But the truck's weight shifts forward, tires finding grip again. They clear the bridge. The armored car fires. MP rifles spit flame. The SS brakes hard, losing ground. For the first time in minutes, Carter exhales. But then, Elwood's Jeep screeches to a halt. He stands up in the back seat, shouting to Carter with a voice edged in dread. "Lieutenant, we've got a problem up ahead." Carter turns, and he sees it. Blocking the road is a collapsed supply truck, burned out, shattered, blocking almost the entire pass. One way forward, one way back. Carter's truck jounces behind them, mud spraying into the air. One of the younger POW women grips the side rail until her fingers bleed through the skin. "Why are we stopping?" she cries, voice barely audible against the wind. Carter crouches beside her. "If we stop, they'll catch us." She presses a trembling hand to her mouth, nodding as tears stream down her cheeks. Behind them, the low growing rumble returns, German engines finding their speed through the trees. The SS trucks are coming. Up ahead, Elwood's Jeep suddenly brakes hard, a violent, screeching halt that sends the next truck nearly crashing into it. Carter's vehicle slams to a stop just inches short of the bumper. "Elwood!" Carter yells. "What is it?" Elwood points. The road ahead splits into 3 paths. One wide, one narrow, one barely visible. The lieutenant looks between them, jaw tight. "This wasn't on any map," he mutters. Behind them, the engines grow louder. "Closer." "Lieutenant," one medic whispers. "They're almost here." Elwood bites the inside of his cheek, scanning the branching roads like a chessboard. Wide road? Too obvious. Narrow one? Could bottleneck the trucks. Barely visible? Potentially impassable. Or perfect cover. The SS engines roar again. A branch snaps behind them. No time. Carter leaps off the tailgate and lands beside Elwood. "Give me your compass." Elwood hands it over without question. Carter drops to one knee and scrapes aside the top layer of frost from the dirt. Beneath it, shallow impressions. Tracks light ones. Fresh ones. "Scouts," he says. "Probably recon units from our side. They take the smallest road to stay hidden." Elwood scans the faint path Carter is pointing to, the barely visible one, swallowed by pine branches and shadow. "You're sure?" "No," Carter says. "But I'm sure we don't survive if we stay." Elwood doesn't argue. He turns and signals the convoy. Single file on the side path. "Go! Go!" Engines roar. The armored car forces its bulk into the narrow trail first, branches snapping against its metal hide. The lead truck follows, then the medical wagons one by one. Carter's truck moves last. He climbs onto the tailgate and waves forward. "Faster. Stay tight." The trucks squeeze into the concealed lane just as the SS vehicles burst from the tree line behind them. Headlights glaring, black uniforms bristling with weapons. A volley of rifle fire cracks through the forest. Bullets slam into tree trunks. Branches explode into splinters. A round tears through a blanket in Carter's truck, missing a woman's shoulder by an inch. A medic shouts, "Keep your heads down." Carter grips the rail and yells forward. "Drive! Drive!" The last truck lurches onto the hidden trail moments before the SS truck reaches the fork, overshooting the turn entirely. The enemy vehicle skids sideways, nearly flipping into the ditch. The second SS truck brakes and tries to correct, but misses the hidden trail completely. The third truck swings wide, sees the narrow entrance, and swerves too late. It plows into a fallen tree trunk, splintering on impact. For the first time since the chase began, the Americans gain precious seconds. But Carter knows the truth. They won't fool the SS for long. The hidden trail tightens quickly, forcing the trucks through claustrophobic walls of pine. The branches scrape harshly against the canvas tops, showering the evacuees with needles and frost. The wounded moan. Women grip whatever they can to keep from being thrown. The trail bends sharply around a rock outcrop, and then drops down a steep slope. The armored car descends carefully. The trucks follow, sliding in the mud. Carter's truck hits the slope. The women scream as the vehicle tilts dangerously. "Hold on," Carter shouts. The rear wheels skid, lose traction, and the truck fishtails toward a ditch. The driver guns the engine. Mud sprays everywhere. The truck rights itself just before tipping. They continue down the slope, barely in control, wheels bouncing violently. At the bottom of the descent, the terrain levels, opening into a forgotten logging path overgrown with brambles. Elwood leans out of his Jeep and signals back. "Keep moving. Don't stop." Carter turns toward the women and wounded in the truck bed. "We're almost clear," he tries to reassure. But he doesn't believe it. Because behind them, beyond the trees, the SS trucks have found the trail. Their engines scream in fury as they follow the Americans into the maze. Carter clenches his jaw. This won't end with a chase. Not anymore. If they want to survive, they'll have to make a stand. The forest feels heavier now, still ringing with the ghost of gunfire, still trembling from the weight of engines that have already passed. Carter wipes a streak of dirt from his cheek as he and Elwood jog back toward the road, joined by the newly arrived reinforcements forming a protective escort behind them. A sergeant from the 102nd salutes in a hurried, breathless motion. "Lieutenant Carter?" "Sir, we got your signal." Division ordered a rapid response when our scouts heard the MG-42. "You all right?" Carter nods, though all right feels like another man's word. "We need to catch that convoy. They're headed to the ravine crossing, but we didn't get eyes on whether the path holds." The sergeant looks grim. That crossing's always been unstable. Mud softens fast this time of year. Carter's jaw tightens. "We're wasting time. Move out." Within minutes, Carter is riding again, this time in the back of a Jeep leading the relief column at full speed. Elwood rides shotgun. The engine rattles fiercely beneath them, the wind whipping through their hair, eyes stinging from the speed. The forest blurs around them, streaks of needle, bark, and shadow. Every turn feels familiar in the worst way. Every curve a mirror of the chase they barely survived. Carter grips the roll bar as they crest a small rise, and then he sees it. The ravine, a narrow wooden bridge, spans a 30-foot drop, where a stream once cut deep into the land. The wood is old, patched, weathered by years of winters. But the American convoy made it across. Mostly, except the last truck. Elwood stands in the Jeep, pointing urgently. They're still on the other side. The convoy stretches across a clearing beyond the bridge. Trucks stopped, soldiers gathering, medics waving them forward. But one truck, Elwood's medical wagon carrying the worst casualties, hasn't moved far from the ravine. The reason becomes obvious. The bridge behind them is broken. A wide section of the railing is shattered, and the plank sagged dangerously where Carter's truck crossed moments earlier. One plank hangs at a twisted angle, still swinging gently in the icy wind. Carter feels his heart sink. That bridge wouldn't hold another vehicle. Not even close. The Jeep brakes sharply at the ravine's edge. Carter leaps out before it fully stops, boots skidding on frozen mud. He jogs across the now empty approach, scanning the wood. "Christ," Elwood mutters behind him. It's a miracle the last truck didn't fall straight through. Carter looks down into the ravine, a tumble of rock, ice, and old logs. A fall from that height would have killed everyone in the back. He grips the splintered railing, knuckles whitening. "They made it," he whispers. "At least they made it across." Elwood pats his shoulder. "And they made it because you held the SS back. Come on, they're waiting." They cross the ravine on foot, careful, single file, stepping only where the planks look solid. The wood groans beneath them like a wounded thing, complaining with every shift of weight. On the far side, a crowd gathers, American medics, soldiers, and the evacuees themselves. The first woman Carter sees is the one he helped onto the truck. The young one, her face streaked with soot and tears, but alive. When she notices him, her eyes widen in a mixture of relief and disbelief. "He's here," she calls, voice cracking. "He's here." Several other women turn, hollow-eyed from fear, but brightening instantly. Some raise hands. Others step forward, en masse, like a tide of fragile hope rushing toward its anchor. Carter is stunned. He's seen soldiers relieved to see officers. He's seen refugees weep at the sight of medics. But this is something deeper, Rar. These women thought they would die today. Not in days or weeks. Today. And now they were clinging to the man who refused to let that happen. The young woman steps closer, trembling. "You stay behind," she whispers. I thought the men in black killed you." Carter shakes his head gently. We held them long enough. That's what matters. A medic from his own unit rushes up, saluting with a grin. Sir, we've stabilized the wounded. That guard from the cellar, the girl's brother, he's alive. Barely, but alive. The young woman's breath catches. She covers her mouth, her shoulders trembling, her eyes filling with tears she's too overwhelmed to wipe away. Carter nods once, a warm, quiet affirmation. It's moments like this, tiny, human moments, that remind him why he became a doctor. Elwood approaches from behind, carrying a radio. Headquarters want a sitrep, and a full report on the German purge directive we found. Carter nods. Tell them we encountered survivors. All of them. Elwood raises an eyebrow. All, sir. Carter looks at the faces. The women, the wounded, guards, the old folkster man, the medics and soldiers who risked themselves for strangers, everyone who made it across the ravine because the line held. He nods. Yes, all. Elwood relays the message. For a moment, the forest is quiet, peaceful, even. Snow drifts from the branches in loose, lazy patches. The wind hums softly, no longer drowned out by engines or gunfire. Carter turns toward the women, who stand clustered together. We're moving out soon, he says, to a safe zone west of here. You'll be fed, treated, and kept warm. No more running. No more hiding. No more orders from men who left you to die. Some of the women nod. Others weep softly. The tall woman from earlier, who pointed out the cellar, takes a step forward. You saved our lives, she says. We won't forget. Carter doesn't respond to that. He doesn't know how. He simply bows his head for a moment. Not in pride. Not in humility. In exhaustion. Relief. And something else. Something he won't name, but feels deep in his chest. The war will end soon. But moments like this will stay with him forever. Elwood approaches again, tapping his shoulder. Lieutenant, there's someone who wants to speak with you. Carter turns. The old folkster man, the one from the trees, stands a few feet away, supported by an MP. His face is drawn, pale, but his eyes are strangely clear. He raises a trembling hand. Carter steps closer. The old man's voice is soft, rasped by cold and trauma. I saw what your men did. For the women, for the sick, for me. He swallows hard. You saved us from our own. Carter lets the words hang in the cold air. The old man's gaze trembles. Why, he asks. Why save those who were told to kill you? Carter answers quietly. Because mercy outlives war. The old man closes his eyes. A tear slips down his cheek. Carter steps back, exhaling, letting the weight lift from his shoulders. They survive the chase. They survive the stand. They escape the execution order written for them. But the day isn't over yet. The convoy still has to move. And the war, unfinished, unpredictable, still holds dangers they can't yet see. Carter turns toward the westbound road. Load up, he says. We keep moving. The women obey. The wounded are secured. The medics climb aboard. And the convoy begins to roll again. Away from the ravine, away from death, and toward a fragile, uncertain future. The forest watches them go. The convoy rolls westward on a winding forest road, engines humming in weary unison. Snowflakes drift down in uneven swirls, melting as they strike the warm radiator grills. The morning light has softened now, less harsh, less biting, casting long, wavering shadows through the pines. Carter walks alongside the last truck, refusing a ride even though the medics insist he looks like he could collapse. He moves with a limp he didn't have an hour ago. His coat hangs open, his hair matted with sweat and frost. But he keeps walking. Every few steps, he glances at the women riding in the truck beds, checking for signs of shock, for trembling hands, for eyes that have gone too still. Trauma hides in silence. Carter has learned to listen for it. Most of the women watch him as he passes. Looks of gratitude, disbelief, and something more complicated than either. A few raise a hand. A few nod. One reaches down and presses a small bundle of cloth toward him. For warmth, she whispers. Carter hesitates, then takes it. Inside the bundle is a worn wool scarf. German-made, hand-knitted, from another life. He wraps it around his neck without a word. The woman smiles through tears. A gesture small enough to vanish in any other story. But here, it feels monumental. Up ahead, Elwood walks beside the lead jeep, conferring with the sergeant from the 102nd. Their boots crackle on the frosted dirt. Their breath fogs the air. Safe zone's not far, Elwood calls back. Half an hour, maybe less. Carter nods, but doesn't slow. He keeps his eyes on the road, always searching the tree line, listening for an engine that shouldn't be there, a rustle that doesn't belong. But the forest remains quiet. Peacefully, impossibly quiet. The war seems far away now, even if only for a moment. As they round a bend, the trees open into a cleared patch of land. A wide meadow scattered with snow and dotted with abandoned farm wagons. To the west, low hills rise, their shapes softened by drifting mist. One of the POW women speaks softly, voice barely audible over the engine. Is it over? Her question hangs in the air. Carter steps closer to her truck, hands resting on the side panel. Not yet, he says. But soon. She nods, slowly, absorbing the truth without bitterness. Thank you for telling me honestly. She touches her chest with her fingertips. After today, honesty feels rare. Carter gives her a small, tired smile. Behind him, the old folkster man sits wrapped in a blanket, eyes fixed on the horizon. His shoulders rise and fall with deep, pain breaths. He murmurs in German, words Carter doesn't catch, but the tone is unmistakable. He is saying goodbye to the army that abandoned him, to the orders that nearly damned him, to the world that demanded he die for nothing. When he looks up and meets Carter's gaze, he nods once, slow, deliberate, like a man acknowledging a truth he spent a lifetime resisting. The forest begins to thin as the road crests another hill. Carter climbs onto the running board of a moving truck for a better view. What he sees steals the breath from his lungs. A vast clearing stretches before them, flat grassland dusted with light snow. At the far end sits a cluster of Allied tents, medical stations, supply depots, and watchtowers. Trucks move between them in purposeful patterns. Medics carry crates of dressings. Cooks stir giant steaming pots. A radio operator hunches over a field set, scanning the airwaves. It is quiet, orderly, safe. A place untouched by German desperation. A place beyond the reach of purge orders. A place where no one will die because their commanders decided they should. A murmur rises from the women. Relief, disbelief, sobs of exhaustion. Laughter spilling out in broken pieces. A few collapse against each other. One covers her face and cries into her hands. Another looks up at the sky, eyes shimmering. They made it, despite the war, despite the chase, despite the execution order that marked them for death before dawn. They made it. Carter exhales. His shoulders finally loosen. Elwood approaches, crossing the short distance between their vehicles. You did it, Elwood says softly. They're safe. All of them. Carter doesn't answer. Instead, he watches the convoy roll into the clearing. Medical personnel rush forward. Blankets are exchanged for better ones. Hot soup is poured. The wounded are carried gently into warm tents. The women step off the trucks with unsteady legs, some leaning on each other, some helped by medics, some walking on their own, as if each step is an act of defiance against the nightmare behind them. For a long moment, Carter stands still, just breathing, letting the safety settle into his bones. Then a soft hand touches his arm. He turns. It's the young woman whose brother they saved. Her eyes are swollen from crying, her cheeks raw from cold and fear, but her voice is steady now. Lieutenant, she whispers. You saved us. All of us. Carter shakes his head gently. You saved yourselves. We just help you make it the last mile. She studies him for a long moment. Then she steps forward and wraps her arms around him in a trembling, fragile hug. Carter hesitates, startled, then slowly returns it. Softly, carefully, respectfully. When she steps back, she wipes her eyes and nods. Thank you, she whispers again. Carter watches as she walks toward the tents, toward warmth, toward care, toward the possibility of a future. The wind shifts. Snowflakes swirl. Voices mingle with the soft hum of Allied engines. Elwood steps beside him, exhaling. So, Elwood says, what now? Carter's gaze drifts over the field, over the rescued women, the wounded guards, the medics rushing to work. He thinks of the cellar, the barn, the order meant to erase every life standing here, and the man in the trees who couldn't bring himself to fire. Then he answers. Now we keep them alive, Carter says softly, for as long as it takes. He takes one last look at the people they saved, the ones breathing because they arrived in time, the ones who survived their own army, the ones who lived to see another morning, and turns toward the medical tents. The snow falls quietly around him as he walks. The war will end soon. But mercy endures. Yendi,